Hello and welcome back to the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, Sun Life Organics. Love, heal, and inspire. Sun Life Organics is a juice bar that has locations all across the United States, providing only the highest quality organic ingredients. I love it. Personally, I go just about every day. My favorite smoothie is the Holy Cow. It's packed with 50 grams of protein, and it always helps me recover. Go find one near you. Another official sponsor of today's podcast is Noble Origins. Noble is a grass-fed beef protein complex, utilizing everything in the cow from nose to tail. It's personally my favorite protein. I like the vanilla the best. I like to mix it with raw milk. That is my favorite combination, but the chocolate is also amazing. I also had mentioned with additional sponsor, Sun Life Organics, that they have a shake smoothie called the Holy Cow. They also utilize Noble protein in order to hit that 50 grams in that shake. So again, go order it. Check them out, nobleorigins.com. Use code ADY for 15% off. Love y'all. Hello and welcome back to the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. On today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. I frequently get asked specific to sobriety. So if you're not trying to get sober, you're not interested in sobriety, no problem, no issue. It probably isn't the episode for you. It might be one day, but the point of this episode is I want to talk through the question I get asked most frequently, and it's, I want to change my life. I want to get sober. How do I do it? So I want to start off. That's a really hard question to answer. So in a general sense, everybody is a little bit different, right? We're all built a little bit different, and the things that we need or don't need are a little bit different. So I don't know if there's a perfect formula towards sobriety. And that's even hard for me to say because I believe God can do anything. And I believe that he can get someone sober. In that same breath, though, there's a level of free will that needs to exist for that to happen. There's a level of buy-in that has to exist from the actual person who wants sobriety or says that they want sobriety in order for God to work, in order for a program to work, in order for fitness to work, in order for anything to work. It takes that level of buy-in from that person. And so I think getting that person to a place where they're ready to buy in, or allowing them to get to that point themselves is probably one of the most critical components outside of all these things I'm getting ready to discuss. But what I wanted to do is give a roadmap. If I could go back and start from day one, what would I do in order to ensure I get back to this place or somewhere better? And I try to, each person I meet that asks for help, I try to utilize that and even perfect it, if you will, or make it better and improve upon it. But there's certain things that are at the core of that I'm not sure can be replaced, right? They're so critical. So that's what I want to talk about today. So if you're out there and you're considering sobriety or you're struggling with sobriety, hopefully this is helpful or impactful. I'm going to tag a link to it and put it in the IG. That way when people come and ask, what do I do, this, that, or the other, it's almost like a step process similar to the program, but it involves the program, if that makes sense. So there's multiple steps, I believe, in order to achieve this. So number one, I think if you're out there again and you're listening and you're contemplating sobriety or you've struggled with it or you've been sober and you've relapsed or you've gotten a little bit of sobriety, but you're not sure how much longer you can hold on, I'm going to try to address all those things in one conversation, and I'm probably going to be pretty imperfect at it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So first and foremost, sobriety to me represents a change in heart and a change in mind. It's deeper than just being dry. I think being dry is one thing, and that's great, and some people, that's their primary focus and that's how they kind of want to exist. And that's their decision. That's wonderful. I believe true sobriety is a change of heart and change of mind, or an improvement of heart or improvement of mind for people that struggle with the word change. Let's call it improvement. So what that looks like a lot of times, and to try to address the people that have reached out without directly addressing them by name, that question is very direct and very indirect when you say, how do I get sober? My first question back to you is, are you sure you're ready? And 99% of the time people say yes. Like they respond yes to that, and I'll do anything and I'll do whatever it takes, and just tell me what to do or how to do it, and I'll do everything possible. Great. Like that is the correct answer outwardly. I think the challenge is internally sometimes there's some, we'll call it not even friction, but almost like hesitance, if you will, to really commit to it and what that's actually going to look like. And then I talk to people that have any term of sustained sobriety, and the conversation goes back to this point in time where that question is asked, like, are you sure that's what you want? Are you ready? And we have this conversation like, yeah, dude, if you'd have told me to live under a bridge for 2 years and that'll do it, I would have done it. Like I was ready for anything and everything. I was willing, that's the key word, willing to do whatever it took in order to find that. And so I think it's easy to say in the moment because you're motivated, or maybe your spouse left you, or your kids aren't talking to you, or your parents aren't speaking to you, or you lost your job, or you got a DUI. And in those moments, a lot of times your emotions are so high, your response is also coming from a place of high emotion. And so you're motivated in that moment, right, to do whatever it takes. What I can tell you is over the course of time, motivation fades, and you have to be able to fall back on like core root principles or things, morals that are going to keep you on the right path, because that motivation dries out. Like my initial motivations to get sober on many occasions had to do with the logical things that people would consider rock bottom, right? Like financial issues, legal troubles, going to jail. I can't tell you how many times I lost friends or relationships or family ties, like temporarily, of course, or permanently, depending on who we're talking about, due to my alcohol and drug consumption. So in those moments, I'm willing to do anything. Over time, that fades. And what would happen is I would always return back to what I knew or what I was familiar with, because I hadn't built up these root principles or morals to fall back on. And so I would end up feeling a little bit better about a situation and be like, oh, I'm all right. I can go back to what I was doing now. Like I've got that resolved. And it would always end up in the same place or worse. And that's the other thing I will tell people, that if you have a thought around sobriety or you're attempting it, I don't know of anyone, and this is my personal experience and this is just me, that I've ever met that says, I'm so glad I threw away my sobriety and went back to drinking and drug use. I've never met anyone that said that. And I've definitely never met anyone that like meant that. And so I'll dive deeper into that later and what that looks like. But just remember, if you're out there and you're in this instant moment and you have to make a decision on whether or not, you're going to do that next line or hot rail or plunge or whatever you got going on, I can tell you from my own experience and from other people that I've talked to that like, you're going to regret that decision. So just hold on just for a minute, and maybe there'll be something in here that you hear that you can apply that will change the trajectory of that. I hope, I pray. I'm not saying that, I'm God's gift when it comes to delivering these types of messages, but I'm just hoping somebody out there hears this and can connect with it and it helps them. If it helps one person, like, we're good. The time was worth it today. So the willingness piece. A lot of times people, when they reach out and they say, I'll do anything, and they'll say, what do I have to do? And I'll tell them up front, like, I don't know you well enough to tell you exactly what you need to do, but if you want me to help you, this is where I need you to meet me. Meaning, these are the requirements in order for me to pour into you, right? And those requirements aren't for them to pour into me. It's for them to pour into themselves. And what that looks like for me is like a very regimented life. I think a lot of people lack structure, and I think that was something that I struggled with, and that's something that kind of led me down some of these paths. Is I had free time. They say idle time is devil. So I believe that, and that definitely was applicable to my life. So when they ask me for help, so that they'll do anything, I'll give them back like a structured list of like, these are the things that helped me. This is what I want to see from you, and as long as you continue to follow this path and provide this information, then I'll continue to pour into you. I'll do anything I can to help somebody who's willing to help themselves, right? The very first step or first thing is so dependent on what the substance is, what the consumption rate is, like all these different things. And I'm not a doctor, right? But I do know that like there are certain drugs and alcohol, obviously, that have significant withdrawal symptoms that can lead to death. Alcohol is an obvious one. Benzos are obvious. People definitely die during withdrawals from opiates at times. Like there's all these different things. And so if that's the case and they have a really high consumption rate, going cold turkey is extremely dangerous. It's a dangerous thing. It's a risk, right? Because you can die in that. So like sometimes step one for people is like getting them somewhere where they can go inpatient and actually detox, whether that's 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, that's up to the doctor's discretion. That's their game. It's whatever it takes. And at that point, it's so critical that there's a proper transition, right? So if people need that detox period, sometimes that comes first, right? You have to dry out. You have to uncloud everything that's clouded, and you have to give your body an opportunity to actually relearn how to function. And I've talked to a lot of people that went through that process, and I personally didn't go through a doctor, managed detox process. So, but I've talked to people that have, and it depends on the doctor and the location and the region and obviously the consumption rate. Those are all factors. But what also matters is like what you're doing the day that wraps up. Like, is your goal to continue this, or is your goal just to like get out of withdrawal, right? And I think that's a tricky thing depending on the substance. Most of the time when you talk to people that are, daily users of anything, they don't wake up necessarily like wanting to continue being an addict, right? They don't wake up saying, God, I just want this so bad. It makes me so happy and fulfilled. It's not that. It's they don't want to feel the way that they feel without it, right? And you could call that withdrawal, obviously, from a physical perspective, physiologically. But there's also like a mental, emotional withdrawal where it's like, I don't like the way I feel, therefore I need to do this in order to feel better. And so I would say a lot of people, when they come out of that detox segment, they're a lot of times they're pumped with like counteracting drugs that help with the withdrawal symptoms. And they can help with the anxiety of it. They can help with the depression of it, all the things that come with it. But once they're free to roam outside of that process, a lot of times they quickly fall back into whatever they were doing. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So depending on the person, sometimes that's the very first thing. Like you got to get dried out. You got to get unclouded. The thing that follows that immediately in my mind, and I think, the people that I talk to, regardless of whether you're in the program long-term, and I'm talking about AA specifically, or you were in the program and then you transition to something else, it is very, 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 very rare that I meet someone that's not their first recommendation in sobriety, outside of like this detox piece that I'm talking about. People swear by it, myself included. Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life. There's zero question. That community, the things I learned, the processes, the support, the sponsorship that I received, all of it was such a critical part of me changing my life and getting on the right path. And so many people that I talk to, it's the same story. Whether or not they stay in it, that's a personal decision. And God bless the ones that do, and God bless the ones that don't. It doesn't really matter to me. I just think it's so important up front that is part of the foundation. It's like any type of foundation that you're building, whether it's a structure, house, whatever you're looking to build. That foundational piece is so critical. And the majority of people I talk to, and I'm talking 99.9% of them, say AA is in that foundation, if not the entire foundation. So if people ask for help and I point them in that direction, one of my requirements is like, you've got to go to a meeting, you've got to pick up a desire chip, and you've got to send me a picture of that chip. And you need to get a book, right? So I think that, getting a big book is a big step. And there's multiple books. So if like it's even gotten to the point now where like there's certain trigger words for people. So they write different books that don't have those certain trigger words in them. So there can still be an impact. That's fine. Whatever you need to do, but you need to have the key principles of the program. That's number one. So if you send me that picture the next day, like, hey, I picked up a desire chip. I picked up a book. Like, I'm still in it with you. Like, okay, this person is willing. It takes a lot. a lot to walk into that room for the first time. There's people I've talked to that be like, oh man, what, nothing. Okay, well, that's great for them. The reality of it for me was it took a lot for me to walk into a room of other people, and essentially what it feels like or felt like for me in that moment, no matter how welcoming anyone was, is, hey, my name's Trip and I'm a fuck up. That's what I heard when I said, hey, my name's Trip and I'm an alcoholic. That's a difficult thing to do. But over time, I realized that the reason that's so important is because you're taking accountability for your truth. You're taking a step and you're saying, like, this is me. This is who I am right now. This is what I have going on right now. And yes, I'm ashamed of it. Yes, I feel guilt in these other arenas. Yes, I'm anxious. Yes, I'm depressed. Yes, I'm suicidal potentially. Yes, I've lost my family. Yes, I've lost my job. Yes, whatever. But I'm here now and I'm willing to own or take accountability for where I'm at in my life. So that's really what it says. If I'm helping someone and they're like, I'll do anything, but I'm not going to a meeting, I'm out. Like, and it's not, look, I love you. I hope it works out for you. I hope you find it. There's people that have found sobriety through other paths. I'm only comfortable with recommending that as a foundational piece because of what I've seen in myself and what I've seen in people in the community. That seems to be a pretty common denominator. So if I tell them, hey, this is what I want you to do, and they come back with like, well, I'll do this, but I'm not doing this, they're not ready. That's really what they're saying. It's really a statement of, I'm not quite there yet, and that's okay. You get there on your own speed, on your own time. Ego is a big part of this. Ego is such a huge part of this. And this is an unpopular thing to say, but I can't tell you how many people I've met in the last 5 years and then prior to that are true addicts or alcoholics, but they're never going to admit it. They're not willing to. They don't have a problem. They can figure it out. They can balance it with this and that, or this is like socially acceptable in my family or my friend group or whatever it is. Like, that's fine and dandy, but the truth of it is you're probably an alcoholic or an addict if you're doing certain things at a certain consumption. And it's not from a judgmental place. It's just what it is. And so a lot of times, until those people are willing to set their ego and their pride down and be like, hey, I need help with this thing. I need to get better at it. I need to improve upon it. They continue to struggle. They continue to suffer. So that just is what it is. Next piece of this. Okay, you go to a meeting, you pick up your desire chip, you get a book, right? I'm going to tell you, for me, in my experience, and everyone's experience is different, so I would never want to apply my direct experience because I don't really think it's feasible or necessary. But the first 9 months of my sobriety, I went to 3 meetings a day. That sounds like a lot, but the reality of it is everything was on Zoom because it was during COVID. So that made it really easy. Like, no matter where I was at, what I was doing, everyone's got a phone. Go on there, log in, listen to the meeting. Sometimes I would be doing work, so I can't actively participate in the meeting necessarily, but you're picking up little things. Like an old timer will drop a little bit of wisdom here or there, and you'll hear it and you'll remember it. Like, there's shit that I heard 5 years ago that I hear now, and like it'll pop back in my head and be like, man, that was brilliant. Didn't make like any sense in the moment, but now it's like, oh, that's what that person was talking about. So get to as many meetings as you can, but if you're newly, freshly sober, a meeting a day for 90 days. That's what I expect if you want me to help you, because it takes that level of commitment. It's an hour a day. If you can't give yourself an hour a day to go do that and go handle that and better yourself if you need it and you want it, you don't really want it yet. You'll do anything for that hour. And I think there's other things that play into time management that are important, and we'll dig into that. And that's why I talked about regiment and structure and why that's so critical. But baseline hour a day, like, go sit down, set your ego down, because that's what happens in these places. At least that was my experience. You set your ego down, you're there, you're surrounded by people that are just like you. Like, you obviously have your differences, but you have one thing in common for sure. And that's part of setting your ego down. It doesn't matter what their job is or if they're homeless. You still got something in common. So I think that was so big for me, and it helped with my growth personally a lot, and I think it helps a lot of people. So 90 meetings, 90 days. I think in that process, naturally what starts to occur is you start to learn some of these like foundational pieces that you're going to be able to fall back on as times get tough. Because everyone also has this misconception that's not in the sobriety or the recovery community, that once you, like day 2, stop drinking, life just explodes into beauty. It doesn't work that way. You definitely have pink clouds, like these highs, where it's like, man, life's perfect. I couldn't imagine. Like, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. And everything's just falling into place. Like, those definitely happen. And I would say ride those as long as you can, but understand on the backside of that cloud is a valley. There are, I would say, more highs and lows in sobriety than I ever experienced pre-sobriety. And I think there's a couple reasons behind that. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone. I'm just trying to give you my truth. But what I'll say is, even if the exact same things are happening post-sobriety that happened pre-sobriety, it feels different because you're not numbing. You're actually like taking in fully what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what's happening. And so because of that, it can feel higher or it can feel lower. And so I think a lot of people get caught up in that and they're like, this shit sucks, man. Like, this is horrible. This is hard. It is, but it's like, it gets better. And I think that's a hard thing to see in the moment a lot of times, and I've struggled with it. I would be lying to you if there weren't moments in my sobriety where it was like, I very clearly know the easy way out, like the immediate way out of any situation that I find to be physically, emotionally, mentally taxing. I know how to resolve that in quick fashion. But what I also know is that is not a long-term solution. It is a very short-term solution that comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of consequence. And so my choice in those moments is like, well, I refuse to deal with the baggage and the consequence of this decision. Therefore, I'm just going to feel what I need to feel and I'm going to sit in it. I think it's difficult to see once you're on a different side of it, and it's difficult to not project when, especially if you're close with somebody and it's rather apparent that they have a struggle or an issue, like you want to sit them down and tell them like, hey, like, this is what I think's going on and you want to fix it and you want to do all this and that. But like, at the end of the day, when I reflect back on my time pre-sobriety, like, I didn't want to hear none of that shit. And the reality is, like, they don't want to hear none of that shit as they're going through it, because they'll just make these statements like, oh, you think you're holier than thou now, you're better than everyone else, this, that. Like, it's like you can't get through when that barrier exists. So again, you have to let people come to it on their own. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of this whole sobriety thing is you want people to experience it. You want them to see the other side of it. But they are going to get there when they're ready to get there, or they may never get there. And that's the harsh reality. So back to the actual like schedule or programming, if you will, or regiment of like what I need to see from someone in order to continue to pour into them. And again, this is them pouring into themselves. You don't need to pour shit into me. I got God for that. I got people in my inner circle that pour into me religiously. So like, I don't need that from people that I'm trying to help. I just need you to pour into yourself. But if you can't invest into yourself, why the hell would I spend my time investing in you? I can have grace. I can show you love. I can show you compassion. But I'm not going to waste my time. So, because there are people out there that actually want it and they deserve that time. So that's a hard thing to be discerning of, and I've struggled with it and I've failed at it multiple times, but it's something that I'm still trying to fine tune. And I think it's important. And it's something that would have helped me a lot actually getting sober, is if like people would have just walked the fuck away sooner. Like, just, yeah, you know what I mean? They held on to the potential. They didn't hold on to what was receded, if you will, or like what existed. So other pieces of this, I think it is important. So let me backtrack. Sorry, 1 second. The program itself, AA, gives you a ton of things. It's not just like you go to AA and you're sober. It gives you a ton of things that you can apply to your life immediately to make a direct impact. One of them that is in trying to keep anonymity where it should be, one of the things that is a core principle that's not a hidden secret is like, you have to believe in a higher power. Like, there has to be something greater than you that exists, that you believe in, that has the ultimate control, if you will, of everything happening. Whether you want that to be the universe, God, whoever, whatever you want to worship. I know there's atheists, right, that got sober and that have sustained sobriety, but they still believe in something greater than themselves. There's a famous story about this guy. And I don't know if it's just local to the Austin area, but I've heard it from other areas too. And it's kind of like it's been just passed around. But it was like they had a higher power of a doorknob. And like that's what they believed. That doorknob is my higher power. And it's in control of everything. And the story goes like they still have their sobriety. It's all about, I think, stripping your own ego and realizing you ain't got all this shit figured out and you're not perfect. So it gives you the higher power piece. And then it gives you a lot, again, without going into a psychotic amount of detail, but there's an inventory of your life where you're forced to look at yourself and all your truths. And I think that's the thing that I see in a lot of people that think they want this sobriety thing, and then they get into it and they run. And I get it. It's terrifying. But it forces you to look at your truth. It forces you to look at yourself. It forces you to face those things, and it forces you to not just look at them, but to do something about them. And there's this realization, not just morally, but internally, like if I don't do something about these things, I'm eventually going to fall back to where I was at. And I see it all the time. And it is so hard when it's people close to you because they refuse to look at their truth. It's denial. It's delusion at its finest. And it's so frustrating because you have to ask yourself when you're involved or you're around that is like, are they intentionally being delusional or are they that ignorant? Right? And you don't ever want to believe someone's that ignorant because if you have the intellectual capacity or ability to manipulate, which a lot of people do, then you also have the intellectual ability and capacity to like face things for what they are and see truths and not be delusional. Today's episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, Sun Life Organics. Love, heal, and inspire. Sun Life Organics is a juice bar that has locations all across the United States, providing only the highest quality organic ingredients. I love it. Personally, I go just about every day. My favorite smoothie is the Holy Cow. It's packed with 50 grams of protein, and it always helps me recover. Go find one near you. Another official sponsor of today's podcast is Noble Origins. Noble is a grass-fed beef protein complex, utilizing everything in the cow from nose to tail. It's personally my favorite protein. I like the vanilla the best. I like to mix it with raw milk. That is my favorite combination, but the chocolate is also amazing. I also had mentioned with additional sponsor, Sun Life Organics, that they have a shake smoothie called the Holy Cow. They also utilize Noble protein in order to hit that 50 grams in that shake. So again, go order it. Check them out, nobleorigins.com. Use code ADY for 15% off. Love y'all. I think it is a defense mechanism to be delusional in 99% of the cases. It's like, oh, I don't want to feel that. Let me just tell myself that's God's will and everything's okay and God's got me and I can just do whatever I want. I can hurt whoever I want because internally I think I'm a good person. Like, I've heard that shit over and over again. And at the end of the day, like, you might believe that, but anyone with clarity sees the truth of it and they're not buying that shit. And you really have good people in your life if they check you on it. That's the other thing that's so rare in today's world is like people that hold people accountable. And I'm still improving upon it, upon that. Like, it doesn't matter if it's sobriety, you want programming to run a 100-mile ultra, you want programming to build muscle, you want programming to lose weight. People will say that they want it, and then like every week they're starting over or they can't get through the first 4 days. And it's like, it's frustrating because for me, it's like the truth is you don't want it bad enough, and that's okay. But where I've struggled in the past is like letting them kind of return to the cycle and try again or try a different way, or maybe it's me and I need to figure out a different approach to this. And most of the time it has nothing to do with me in that world. It's more about like what they're willing to commit to and how deep that commitment runs. So again, a big part of the program is facing yourself, looking at all of you, like everything you've ever done and seeing what needs to be addressed. The other big piece of that is resentment. And this is something that I would say is it's still a catalyst for me as far as something that I utilize maybe in maybe the not healthiest way. But I certainly right now in my life am living with a certain level of resentment. Some towards people, some towards places, some towards things. And I journal about it and I write about it and I go to therapy about it and I do all that shit. But at the end of the day, like it is a work in progress. I haven't had the experience yet where I wake up and I'm like, I feel no resentment. Because I also think there's a level of delusion that exists with that. Like, you feel nothing? Like, that didn't impact you at all? You really let all that go? Like, maybe. I just haven't had that experience yet. So you also learn about that in the program. And I think it gives you the tools to begin improving upon that. Another big part of the program that I feel to be insanely impactful in a positive way is the commitment to service. It talks a lot, like, people talk a lot about, if you're suffering or you're struggling, the quickest way out of that is to show up for somebody else. There's a very fine line between being so selfless that it's detrimental to yourself or your health, and then being so selfish that it's detrimental to yourself or your health. It is a tight line to walk. But if you can find that balance where it's like, I'm gonna be of service and I'm not gonna spiral in my own head, it's a pretty good place to be. It's kind of a sweet spot. But what I will say is, if you are struggling right now, the quickest way, most immediate, impactful way out of that, outside of drugs and alcohol, is to go help somebody. Do something. Go cut your neighbor's front yard without them asking. I don't know. Take their mail to them. Whatever. Find something. If you don't have neighbors, I don't know. Go clean up a highway. Like, just do something that is right. Because as you compound those things, the more right things you do, the more motivated or driven you are to continue to stay on that path. And so I think that the service component is huge also in that program. All right. In combination to the two things I've mentioned, so we talked about detox, we talked about the program, I believe there's a physical component to sobriety for me, and for maybe not everyone, but for a competitive personality. You got to remember, there's different types of addicts and alcoholics. I would put myself in a category of competitiveness that's, I don't want to sound cocky and say rare, but that's what I believe. I believe my level of competitiveness is rare. I hate to lose. Winning's great, cool, sweet. I hate losing. And I have this bet against me mentality, and that chip on my shoulder alone has carried me to a lot of wild places in life, some good, some bad. But if you have any level of competitiveness in you, you need to go to work and compete against yourself, right? Day to day to day to day. Physical fitness is an easy way to do that. That's why I recommend it. Like, you could start with something as simple as, like, I'm going to do as many push-ups as I can today. And then the next day, you try to beat that number. And if you don't beat that number, then you do an extra set, right? Like, but you continue, you find something in that realm and build off of it. A half-mile walk, a quarter-mile walk, rollerblading, move your body. I think that it's so discounted in today's society. We don't talk about how important it is. Just sweat. Like, moving your body and flushing out toxins and getting blood flow. Like, that's all so critically important to just your own, like, physiological cycle, right? How your body works. So the physical component is also part of what I tell people that I require. Like, I require you to do something. You don't have to do what I do. You don't got to do an Ironman. You don't got to lose 100 pounds. You don't got to do ultra marathons. You don't got to get freakishly strong. You don't got to, none of that shit. Just do something that you can grow in physically. Okay, that's a piece. And then there's the mental, emotional side. And I think the program provides a lot of that, but I think there's an additional layer to it. Like, where there's like this component. I'm a big believer in therapy, and I'm talking like group therapy is great, but man, I really believe in like one-on-one deep conversation with someone who is a professional that can help you unravel all the shit that you've tied up over the years. Does it suck at times? Absolutely. Is it painful? Absolutely. Has there been moments in my therapy journey where I'm delusional and refuse to go where they think that I need to go? Yeah, absolutely. But through that process, I've grown mentally and emotionally. So it's the same as growing physically and spiritually and all these things. You have to work it, right? It takes exercise of that specific component in order to improve at it. So I believe therapy is a great component for that. I think that there's a lot of, there's some challenges with that. It could be financial, right? Maybe you don't have insurance. Maybe your insurance doesn't cover it. Whatever, what have you. There are resources for that. Now, if you really need to talk to someone, again, you can DM me. We can put you in contact. We can make that happen in a different way, right? But to me, that's such an important part of it. So at this point, if you've agreed to detox or not detox based on, again, substance consumption rate, those things, if you've agreed to 90 meetings in 90 days and you're going daily and you're providing evidence of that, and you've agreed to doing something physical every day, and you've agreed to a mental emotional process every single day, I really believe those 4 things are the most important components, because what happens is there's this other piece of sobriety that everyone talks about. It's so important, but it's community. If you do those 4 things, or 3 things, depending on, like I said, the first one, you're going to find community. It's going to show up. There's going to be connection. Community and connection is recovery. Like, it's putting yourself in the right circle, like-minded. I'm headed in this direction on this trajectory. Oh, wow, look at the people I'm meeting along the way. That's really helpful. That's going to be impactful. That's going to help me improve. Wonderful. Then you should continue with that group of people. Excuse my French, and I'm not even going to curse. I'm working on it. Love you, Mom. What messes, that's a hard word for me to say, a lot of people up is they get on this new path, this new trajectory, and they find themselves drawn back into their old friend groups. If your old friend group is still behaving in a way that doesn't promote your growth fully, then you need to be able to walk away from that. I cannot tell you, and this is from very, very personal experience, people in my life that have gotten to a point of sobriety where they found massive success personally, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, all these things. And then they kind of reconnect, or they kind of go back and want to spend time with the people in their lives that they used to spend time with, but they're still doing the things that this person no longer does. And eventually what happens is they end up getting back into that world. What I can tell you from very direct personal experience, myself included, is everything you work to build unravels. It falls apart. It never gets better, I assure you. And you can sit there and be delusional all you want, because I've done it and been like, it doesn't matter. I got it figured out. It's all good. I'm crazy successful. You're broken inside. That's what you are. I was broken inside. You cannot revert back to that and be okay, especially once you've had a full-blown experience on what it's like not to have it, and massive success in every facet of your life because of that decision. So community is so important. Being around the right people, the right circle, so important. The second you take a step back into old community or old people that are still making the decisions that put you in a position that you didn't love, you're asking for it. You might be all right once or twice. Maybe the 3rd time it's okay. 4th time, well, I'll have a drink, a drink's fine. 5th time, yeah, fuck, let's drink the bottle. Sorry, I said the F word, working on it. But point being, like, it gets right back to the same place. And a lot of times it gets deeper, because the shame that comes with knowing that you know better and you've seen the other side of something and you're deliberately choosing to go back there creates a level of shame that I don't think most people can handle. Truthfully, it takes a lot to crawl out of it multiple times. That's why I hear these people's stories that have been to rehab 15, 20 times and now they have sustained sobriety. Do you know how tough that person is? People be like, oh, they failed so many times. No, man. The amount of shame they've had to overcome in order to go back and try again and fight for it again, I can't even fathom. That is a strong, strong, strong human in every way. And I think that, again, because of the stigma, that's automatically viewed as like, well, this person can't figure it out. They're still trying, right? So as long as you're trying and you're making an effort or an attempt, you have all my respect. But if you just give up and throw the towel in, you have my grace, you have my empathy, but I don't respect that decision because I don't think it's a good one. That's okay. But I think that community is so critical. And if you do those things I told you, you go to meetings, you start to work out, you join a run club, you join a gym, you join a yoga studio, you join Pilates, whatever. You're going to build community that way. You're going to meet people, you're going to meet friends. The mental emotional side, same thing. You start to meet like-minded people because of the path you're on. You can have conversations at a level or a depth that you previously couldn't. Guess what? That's going to introduce you to new people. That's the other thing that struggles within community when you go back to these old scenarios or situations. You try to have a conversation with somebody who hasn't been enlightened at all, it's the driest, emptiest feeling that you could possibly imagine. There is no depth, but it's familiar and it's comfortable and you don't have to push yourself. That's why a lot of people get stuck in it. It's like, well, I'm top tier in this group. right? I'm comfortable here. I look good in this group. I can perform well in this group. That's great, but you're not growing. You're really just, you're creating a complacent environment where you can be comfortable. And that's fine if that's your choice and that's what you want. But I'm just saying, if you're out there and you really want this thing, you can't do that. You got to keep going forward. And I mean, do not turn around unless somebody says they want your help. And then I will never say no to anybody that reaches out and says, hey, can you help me? Or do you know someone that can help me? Regardless of what you've done to me in the past, I do not care. I assure you, I will try my best to get you the help that you need. And I will meet you wherever you're willing to meet yourself. So that's the community piece of this thing. Again, I believe it takes all of it, because what happens is, as you grow in this clarity or this sobriety, again, life continues to happen at a rapid pace. Like, it doesn't stop. There's still bills, there's still failures, there's still relationships, there's still moves, there's still job changes. There's all these things that are continually shifting and changing. You can't control the level of consistency of which, like, life happens. All you can do is control the level of consistency and how you show up to life every day. I promise you, though, if you do those 4 things or 3 things and you show up to life consistently every day, regardless of the inconsistencies of the external world, you will be in a better place. But it's because of your consistency. If you've ever noticed, the people that always have to be doing something, talking to somebody, texting someone, calling someone on this social media account, that social media account, going to the store, going to the mall, going to dinner, that's chaos, and it's familiar. And what it is a distraction from the truth, whether that truth is their own shortcomings, their own flaws, their own failures, or it's an awareness problem where they do not want to see what's actually happening around them because they're terrified if they actually saw it, it would break them. So watch out for those kinds of people in sobriety, the busybodies, right? People that can't sit with themselves. It's problematic. Other piece of this. So there's some things I would say that are do not do's early in sobriety. And these are things looking back, like even when I was going through the process, I'm like, I don't know if I really believe that, but I understand now why they put some of these principles in place. And none of this is written in any book. This is just wisdom passed down verbally from generations to generations to generations. One thing that comes up a lot early in sobriety is do not engage or enter into a new romantic relationship. Do not. And especially if that person is also involved or engaged in the program, and especially if you have about the same, like, clean time, sober time. I have heard of that working. It does happen. But a lot of times what happens is the bottom falls out and one or both people relapse and they have to start over, or they never make it back, right? And it's because I believe, like, when you're going through a withdrawal or a change in life of something you've relied upon for so long, like drugs or alcohol, in order to feel better, like lust, right? Or love, potentially, if you believe in that at first sight, can fill this void. Right? And it creates so much comfort that you're no longer working on the actual things you need to work on to repair yourself. And then if that ends, that wound is open, wide open again, and you have nothing to fall back on. I think that's why that message has been passed down from generation to generation. Again, it's worked. I've seen it work with people, but most of the time it doesn't end well. So I think that first, I'm more on the lenient side. I'll say like 6 months, none of that. Like 6 months, set it down, go abstinent, just deal with yourself. I think if you actually do that, and again, it goes back to the amount of work you put in. Like, time is kind of irrelevant. It's what you do with the time. 30 days of sober time for me might mean something totally different than 30 days of sober time for a close friend of mine. We might be in 2 totally different places, and we most likely are. It depends on how much effort was put in, how much consistency was put in, the depth of which we started, right? Because that matters. If you have to acknowledge, like, maybe one person is starting at level 5 and another person is starting at level 35. We might be in the program for the same amount of days, but if we gave the same consistent effort, one person is still ahead than the other, or this person's further ahead, or this person catches up and passes them. So, like, it's case by case basis. That's why I believe, like, saying like hard and fast rules around time frames are a little bit tricky. But that's why I think the 90-day mark is important to me and the 6-month mark is important to me. Other people have different marks. Those are just the ones that I think are the most applicable. And this is just a personal thing. Like it doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. I'm just telling you from experience what I believe. So there's that side of it. I believe also what ends up happening, you have these moments through this journey where you're presented with decisions. And it can seem so small in the moment, like what those decisions are, what the question is. Like, there's an event that's taking place at this location, and I've got this much clean time, and I know at this event, like these certain things are going to be taking place, and they might be triggering to me. If you feel that way, man, you probably shouldn't go, right? It's probably not worth it. Is the risk really worth the reward? Like juice worth the squeeze? Are you going to have so much fun that it's worth potentially backtracking 3 months, 2 days, 6 months, whatever it is? I think if you're in a place where you say no, meaning like it's not worth it, that's a really good sign you're on the right path. The other piece of knowledge that was passed to me early on that I still apply today, and not just to sobriety at all, it's play the tape forward. Okay, if I make X decision today, what does Y look like tomorrow? And with drugs and alcohol, I can give a really clear answer to that for myself personally. There's probably going to be a hangover involved if I go to sleep. Depends how much blow I find. I'm probably going to wake up depressed and anxious and a little bit delusional, and probably try to make myself feel better by connecting with people and spending time with people and doing things to keep my mind off of myself. It's very typical for me. And I don't want to live that way anymore, right? I've got enough baggage to unpack. Like, I don't need to keep adding clothes to this luggage, right? We're unpacking at this phase of life. So that way I can have room to absorb and take in whatever my family might need one day. So I think that's an important piece of it too, is playing that tape forward. And that's applicable to a lot of areas of life. Like it could be something as small as like, if I go to lunch with this friend, how is that going to impact my mental, emotional state? Is it worth it? Right? Is it putting me in a position where I'm growing or I'm improving, or I can be of support in them growing or improving? And if the answer is no, like for me these days, it's like, I don't have time for it. Like I'll try, but like, man, if it's just to bullshit or talk about the weather, like I don't have time for it. Like there's no space. So that comes in your sobriety too. You'll have these opportunities and they'll pop up and you'll see them. And what's crazy about it, if you make the right decision, there's always a reward on the back of it. I swear to you. It might not come in the way that you think it's going to come, but the reward might just be you have a good day, right? I'm not saying you're going to get $1 million every time you make the right choice, because that is certainly not the truth, but you might just have a good day, and that's better than a bad day. So I would say like those moments start to happen, and the more you can stack them, the better. And then, you know, I think that the last piece of this, and I'm still figuring it out. Like I just got 5 years sober. Like I definitely don't have all the answers. And I've met people that got 50 years sober that don't have all the answers. So like, I don't know that really exists, that there's any level of perfection to it. I just know on my worst day that's coming in my life, I will not drink or use drugs. That's all I know. And if I don't do that, I'm good, right? If I stick to that, I'm good. Meaning like if I make a decision to not do that on my worst days, I'll be okay. I can figure the rest of this shit out. But that comes down to free will. It's not God's will for you to relapse. I can't stand hearing that shit, man. When people like, well, yeah, man, I guess God just really wanted me to like make that mistake 17,000 times to learn my lesson, and they still haven't learned their lesson. That ain't God's will, man. That's your lack of willingness or your inability to more or less acknowledge free will. So I think that, you know, people use that as a crutch or an excuse all the time. And I've been close with people that are like that. And in reflection, I don't know what the hell I was doing even being near them. It's bullshit, right? It's a denial of truth. So I think sobriety, again, is a mental shift, a physical shift, an emotional shift. It's a spiritual shift or growth or improvement or change. You can use whatever word you want there. But those things have to be modified in order for it to be sustainable. They cannot stay the same. And if you modify those things, your community will change. It's going to change because you're going to level up to a place where the people in the past, like maybe not all of them, but a lot of them ain't going to make sense anymore. There's people from my past I'm still connected with, people that I partied hard with. They're either no longer partying in that same way or they understand the boundary there. Like, we're not around each other when that's happening. In the other areas in life that we're growing in, like, we'll connect there. And that's fine. But I think that it's so important to be able to get to a point where you can decipher what that is and what that looks like. So I would say, coming up on like an hour here, just short of an hour, like that to me is the process I'm going to give someone if you come to me and ask for help. And if you're willing to meet me at all those places, meaning like show up for yourself in all those ways, I'll be right there, man. I don't care if you're in Canada and Egypt, it doesn't matter. Like, just do that. And if it fails, I'll take full accountability. If you really pour everything you have into the things that I just talked about and you relapse and you don't do any of the shit that I just told you not to do, hey, man, you can come for me. Like, I'm fine. I'll take that hit all day. I ain't seen it yet. And that doesn't mean it won't happen, but pretty confident that, like, those things are important. So, to wrap it up real quick, number one, detox or no detox. And you know, talk to someone who has experience in knowing whether or not that you need to do that or that should happen. Number two is get to a meeting, whether it's AA or NA. Get to a meeting, collect a desire chip, get a book, get a big book, start reading. In that process, you will grow, you will get a sponsor, you will learn so much about yourself if you're willing to do the mirror work, if you're willing to actually look at your reflection. So that's number two or one pending detox. Number three, there's a physical component. Do something every single day that you can track your improvement upon, because you have that to fall back on if something comes bad. Like, well, at least I'm growing in this area. Same thing on the mental, emotional side. Find something that you can improve upon intellectually, mentally, emotionally. And that could be therapy, and I recommend it, but it could also be reading or poetry or artwork or whatever you need to connect with yourself. Find something you can grow in that lane. If you do those things, the community piece comes with it. Make sure you constantly audit your surroundings, who you're around, what their intentions are. Like, I've met people, and this also drives me absolutely nuts. They'll be like, well, I don't do any research on anyone before I let them in my circle. I just let them in my circle until they show me they shouldn't be there. What if they come in and they fuck everything up, which is what happens all the time. So that, to me, that's like delusion in itself. You mean you did no research on this person or what they do or who they are, and then you commit to them in a way that provides them access to your most vulnerable like places in your mental and your psyche or your emotional self? To me, that's ridiculous. It's just ignorant. So do your homework on people before you allow them in. See how they show up consistently time and time again. And I don't mean on their social media. That shit is fake. And if they're giving bad red flags on social media, you can almost guarantee they're a red flag in real life. But I'm telling you, even the people that give green flags on social media, make sure you do your own homework. Ask around, talk to people. Hey, you know, is this person, you know, on the same path that I'm on? Is this a good connection for me to make? What usually happens, though, is people connect you with where you're at and where you're going. And that's why I said, if you do those core things, those connections naturally happen, because someone you've met or you've become close to, like, hey, you should really meet so-and-so. Like, you guys have a lot in common. You can trust those connections most of the time. It's the ones that pop up that you have to be willing to show discernment in and understand if that's what's best for you or what's not best for you. But I can just tell you, it's a slippery slope if you choose the wrong path. I'm literally witnessing it in real time in multiple facets of my life. And that's happened since I got sober. It's happened with me personally. Like, I've connected with the wrong people and almost went back to the wrong things and then realized and been like, got the fuck out. So sorry about that, F-bomb. Point being, if you do all of those things, I think you will find success eventually in sustained sobriety. And to me, like, if you want me to help you, that's what I'm going to tell you. It's going to be something in that realm of what I just said. And that's not just what worked for me. It's a conglomerate of what I hear has worked for so many others, and how they've gotten to a place where they have sustained sobriety. So if you're out there, you're struggling, I hope this helped. I hope this made a lick of sense. I tried to present it in a way that made sense. And if you have questions, get in the comments. You can DM me on ADYATX. I'll do my best to respond. I have somebody helping me with social media on that side now. So, reach out. I'll do anything I can to help you as long as you're willing to meet yourself where you're at. I love you guys. Appreciate you tuning in on today's episode of the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. We'll see you next week. Bye.